better.
85's better.
94's better.
85's better.
My 94 shoots bald eagles out of the back.
I can do entire rails of cocaine in my 85.
Damn it, well give me some. What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the best C4 for first-time buyers. We've got two great examples. This is going to be an awesome video. Stick around and check it out. All right, so I get a ton of questions in my email, which is lookforkurtwinters@gmail.com. Don't be afraid to send a question about your C4 Corvette. We've got two examples, in my opinion, are the best vets for that new buyer, or maybe someone who doesn't wrench on their car a lot, or somebody who's looking for the most bang for their buck. So we have a 1985 as our first example, and we also have my 1994 as a second example. We've got a special guest today, Matt, who's the owner of this awesome 85, and he's going to tell us all about his car to kick us off about what is the best vet for you to buy. What's up, Matt? Welcome to the video, bud.
Hey.
Thanks for bringing out your C4 today. He's got a 1985, and Matt's going to tell us a little bit about his buying experience, some of the issues and niggles he's had to work out with the car, but we're also going to drive home the point about why the 85 through 88 vets are some of the best bang for your buck when it comes to buying a new C4.
I'd like to go over a few things with you, and we can discuss some ups and maybe a few downs and just some points of consideration when buying your first C4.
All right, now we know the vets were sold between 1984 and 1996, which is one hell of a long run for a car. Now, during that run, GM switched up the vet a lot, but the 85 to 88 cars are almost identical, and they had the tuned port engines. So again, if you're looking for a first-time C4, the 85 to 88s, because they're identical, is going to be a good buy. I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt, and he's going to explain some of this interior and some of the other issues he's had with it.
All right, so let's discuss some of the quirks and features, as to quote Doug, when it comes to the interior of our 85 Corvette. One of the big changes that GM made with the 85s, mainly as opposed to the 1990s versions of the Corvette, are the layout of the dash, and of course one of the most iconic features is the digital dash. This is the thing that everybody thinks of when they think of a C4 from the 1980s. Let's have a closer look. All right, so as we discussed before, we're going to look at the digital dash on the Corvette, and mainly just some of the more basic layout of the dash itself and some of the driver controls. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and turn on the key to the ignition, and as you can see, we have a liquid crystal display for the tachometer. We have oil pressure, coolant temperature. We have an RPM gauge on our right and a mile per hour gauge on the left. But more importantly, we have controls in the center which allow us to change and toggle between different controls. As you see, we've moved from the oil pressure to oil temp. We can also turn the controls off. The same is true for engine coolant. By simply toggling a switch, we move from engine coolant to our battery voltage. And once again, like the other controls, we can turn those off. And once again, we have controls for range and trip odometer, and even fuel economy.
Quick question, Matt.
Yes.
Is this the same dash they used on the USS Enterprise?
One could only hope.
Matt, I was checking out your dash. Is that a pillow over there for napping during long road trips?
Well, you know, we don't really worry about what the passenger wants to do in our Corvette, do we?
No, it's a driver's car. You're right.
Indeed. All right, so let's take a closer look at our 1985 Tune Port Injection V8. One of the first things that you may notice about the TPI engine, one of the most telltale and iconic things about it is the intake plenum for the air. The reason it's referred to as tune port is each port in the engine, at least in theory, is supposed to receive a certain volume of air. These tune port injections, they are fairly economic in terms of both their fuel economy, but the biggest thing is, despite some bugaboos about maintenance, they are fairly reliable engines. One point of consideration to take in when you're going to be looking at purchasing one of these cars equipped with a tune port is the injectors. Now in this car, there's a bank of injectors on either side of the engine. So you have 4 injectors over here and 4 injectors on the other side, on the passenger side of the car. The injectors themselves are fairly rugged, they're fairly reliable, and as far as I can tell with this particular car, it still has its original injector. And the point about injectors and just engine maintenance when it comes to buying a car that's 35 years old is you guys need to consider electrical components in cars. All these insulation on wires, it becomes brittle with time. It ages because of something called thermal cycling. Basically, all that means is the car heats up and cools off every time you run it, and that puts stress on the electronic components, which I believe, Kurt, you had a video regarding pressure washing the inside of your Corvette engine. Do not do that, and it's more than just Corvette, guys. Try not to be spraying water in things that have electronics that are 30-something years old. It's just a recipe for a bad time.
Absolutely, and that's a really good point that Matt brings up from the 85 to 88s. What you have to remember is that these electronics were probably designed in the late 70s and early 80s. So you've got a wide gap of not only technology, materials used, and even a C4 that has 10,000 miles, if it's an 85 and it's been setting and setting and setting, wires, just like Matt said, they're going to corrode, whether that's under heat stress load or just age in general. So one of the things about the 85s that Matt will back me up on is that between the LCD dash and some of the wiring in the engine, electronics can be a little bit of an issue to troubleshoot.
That's right.
When you're buying this particular model of Vette. So be sure to ask the owner if he has gone over the wires or if he's been experiencing any electrical issues.
And on that note, I would also add, if you are going to be a Corvette owner, it is worth it to invest in a factory maintenance and overhaul manual. They can be had at either Echo Corvette or Zip Corvette. But let's get back to the TPI engine. So for those who do not know, this is unlike the IROC Camaros, which usually had a 5.0 liter. This is a 5.7 liter tune port injection. Basically, the block is a Chevy 350, which Corvette basically built from the ground up to have higher profile cams. Instead of having a more fuel economy driven engine compared to like basically the Malaise era 350s, this was the first real step in the 1980s to getting back to having a performance car that could handle both fuel economy but also start delivering power back into the equation. A couple things to note here also regarding the TPI engine: serpentine belt setup. Serpentine belt is more of a modern setup. In older cars, for those who are collectors, you may know that you had to basically tension V-belts, which were really obnoxious to work on. This was really nice, especially in the 1980s, in the sense that you have a standard belt tensioner. Replacing a belt in here is the same as it is on any modern car. Some maintenance considerations for your Corvette. We mentioned the brittle electronics. Those are things you just need to be aware of. As discussed with the wear and tear consideration, you have other components that wear out too. You know, you have power steering pumps, you have hoses, batteries, electrical harnesses, all those things we want to take a close look at when we're looking at buying a Corvette. Your radiator is right up here. The air duct that brings air into the intake plenum on your C4 pulls it from underneath where the front bumper is located. There's an air dam there that brings it up into the snout here for your tune port injection. So basically, People look at the metal spider here, and right away you know you're dealing with a two-port injection car.
Real quick question.
Yeah.
Is this where the blinker fluid goes?
Oh, that only takes premium blinker fluid.
Premium blinker fluid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should have a slight lemony odor to it.
Well, it doesn't smell burnt. It smells like you changed it not too long ago.
Oh, and that's another point, guys. As with any vehicle purchase, check fluids, check for obvious things. And another thing with these cars that are oftentimes overlooked, suspension components. Now, this car does have worn bushings that need to be replaced, both the front and rear. That is another thing that comes with buying used cars, and that's also reflected in the price. So if you think you're getting a good deal for a couple grand, really take a good look at it, because these are things that are easy to overlook, and they can add up very quickly and cost you some serious dollars.
So Matt brings up a really good point, and something that I mentioned before, whether it's tires, suspension component, the frickin' battery, the rubber seals around the car, damage. Don't be afraid to use this as a negotiating tactic when you're buying your C4 Corvette, because they made a lot of these cars. There's almost 500,000, and it's really important to find the C4 that's right for you. This is not a car that you want to go out and immediately get your Hot Wheels hard on and buy the first car you see. Don't do that. Be very picky and very choosy, and don't be afraid to walk away from a deal. And also, like I said before, I know I'm repeating myself, Matt said, look for things that are screwed up on the car and use that as a leverage and a negotiating point.
I would also say test drive the car.
Oh,
and I do
yes.
mean absolutely test drive it.
When it's cold.
When it's cold.
Yes, you want to ask the owner, don't start it up before I get there. I want to start it up cold.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, Matt, what did you pay for your Silver Bullet over here?
The Silver Bullet cost me about $5,000.
$5,000. Did you buy it locally?
No, I got it at auction. eBay Motors.
Oh, okay. So you bought this car sight unseen.
Sight unseen.
You paid how much?
$5,000.
$5,000. Okay. So I've done a little bit of price shopping or price analysis on this car, and really the 84s through the 85s, if you want to buy a piece of shit car, you can pay $2,000 to $2,500.
Yep.
If you want to get a nice example, you're looking anywhere from 4 to 6, which I believe this is a nice example of a C4. I'm going to get to test drive it later, so I'll really let you know if Matt got a good deal or not. But that's kind of the price range. We're looking anywhere from 2, kind of the top of the 4s, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and on a final note about that, I would say that this is like your daily driver Corvette. This is a car that may have some maintenance things that you need to take care of, and I do. However, it'll get you in the door, and it's not going to be something that you're immediately going to turn around and go, what the hell did I just do?
Right.
So if you're going to play it cheap with Corvettes, my advice is do not. Do not play it cheap with Corvettes. It's going to cost you at least, like Kurt said, 4 to 6 to get in the door with a functional, drivable car that's not going to, get you hurt or cost you a bunch of money.
You know, there's a really good saying, Matt. There's nothing more expensive than a cheap Corvette.
Indeed.
Remember, if you like these videos, go ahead and subscribe. It's free. Hit that notification bell up the top so you can be alerted to the newest video upload to this channel. Of course, go ahead and hit that like button too, and drop as many comments as you want. I love to hear the feedback. Me and Matt really hope you enjoyed this video today. And again, remember, if you're shopping for vets, take your time. Don't pull that trigger. Maybe we shouldn't say pull trigger lately. Go ahead and take your time, and before you whip out that cash or your genitalia, make sure you've got the right vet for you. Don't rush into it.
That's right, guys. Find the right car that fits you, and don't be afraid to say no to a bad deal. There's plenty of them out there, as you've already pointed out, and I hope you enjoy driving your C4.
Yes, we've had an awesome day today shooting this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.